The Madman! Welcome to Trump Reviews Custom Cards of the Week. There's a subreddit called Custom Hearthstone, and Cool Boy Pie has compiled the top cards from that subreddit of the week. Alright, first card, we got a mage card, Mad Arcanist Tome. 2 mana, shuffle 5 cryptic notes into your deck. You play them all and you awaken the tome, so kind of like the spell stones in that you're doing a ritual in order to increase your power. So the cryptic note you get, it's pretty interesting. 3 mana, discover a secret from any class and put it into the battlefield. When it triggers, draw a cryptic note. So there's 2 ways to get more cryptic notes. The first way is to have the secret actually trigger. The second way is maybe you got a secret that's too hard to trigger. You can still just draw the cryptic notes normally from your deck. 3 mana to put a secret into play and draw a card is pretty strong. And this can discover secrets from any class, Paladin, Rogue, Rogue has secrets, Hunter, Mage. And when you tack on draw a card, any card, it's usually like +2 mana, so like this by itself is already arguably pretty strong. But the completed version is insane. Once you've completed your 5 cryptic notes, you have an awakened tome, 7 mana. At the end of each of your turn, put 3 random secrets into the battlefield, which is like Aluneth, except you're directly putting in the 3 cards onto the battlefield. Anyways, for this card, I generally think that any control mage, like the big spell mage of today, would just stick it into their deck. And it would be ridiculously overpowered, so the power rating on this card is 6 stars. The design of this card is pretty cool. I like the idea of the quest and being able to discover random secrets. I guess I give it a 5-star for design value. This is what the Hearthstone team does. They have an initial design group and they have a balanced design group afterwards. And the balanced design group is the one that looks at this and is like, wow, it's a cool idea, but it's way too overpowered. Maybe we change the Awakened Tome to, at the end of each of your turn, put 1 random secret into the battlefield, something like that. So I mean, there are some serious obstacles to overcome, such as you'd probably have to release this card after Quest Mage has rotated out, and also you'd have to look into Wild and think about whether or not Quest Mage and Wild would be too overpowered. But it could probably withstand this card in Wild, assuming that the final quest reward was severely toned down. Next up, we have Tailor Tom, 5 mana, 2/5, battle cry. Choose a friendly minion, cut out its text, and sew it to a random minion in your hand. So the idea of it is you have a minion on the board, such as Stonetusk Boar, target it with the Tom, and then one of your cards is going to have its text replaced with charge. So the big thing that Twitch managed to brainstorm together to completely imbalance this card is you would run Stonetusk Boar and the Darkness, and then you have a 4 mana 20/20 charge. For that reason, this card can never see the light of day. So the power level of this card is 6 stars, and the design of this card is 1 star because you can never change this to actually work. And it would be imbalanced in Standard, it would be imbalanced in Wild. The Boar Darkness Tailor Tom deck is real. Next we've got Totten Tongue, cute little hunter guy, 1 mana 1/2 beast. While this is in your hand, your secrets are disabled secretly. So the idea of this is you have your explosive trap on the board. Your opponent maybe tests for it by attacking their weapon into the secret. It doesn't trigger, and then they play their stuff, and then, haha, you play Totten Tongue. And then, surprise, they have to test for all their secrets again. Now the problem with this one is that Spell Hunter can't run this card because it's a minion. And the other problem with it is, even though it's cute, it's just too weak. And if you just bump their stats up because you considered this a drawback, then it would just be too strong because it would be a vanilla minion. Most of the time, you want your secrets to trigger instantly, which is why it's kind of important to have this card be a low mana cost so that whenever you want, you can just get rid of it. But the problem is, there's only so many stat points you could put on it. Like 1 mana 2/2 would probably be too good just because a 1 mana 2/2 beast might be too strong. There are a lot of problems with this card. Currently in its incarnation it wouldn't see play because it would be too weak, so it would be 1 star. The design is really interesting, but I don't actually see a way to make this effect work on a hunter minion. 2 stars on design? Just because I can't think of a way to make it work. Boolean test subject. 3 mana 1/5 charge. When this minion triggers a secret, add a copy of that secret to your hand. So the design here is clearly meant so that it manages to survive snipe, I guess. And then he can charge in and test a bunch of secrets: freezing trap, explosive trap, attest mirror entity, explosive ruins. Like a charge minion tests so many other things. So the idea is really cool in this. There's a problem with the fact that just a 3 mana 1/5 charge is absolutely insane and would be seriously abused by the Divine Spirit Inner Fire decks. We look to Nomergon Infantry and say that it wasn't a problem back then, but back then, importantly, Shadow Visions wasn't around. Shadow Visions made the Divine Spirit Inner Fire deck way more consistent. So from a power level perspective, this card is 6 stars because it's ridiculously overpowered, and Divine Spirit Inner Fire Priest would just run this and then be happy to have a 1 mana discount on Stormwind Knight. Possibly okay by just bumping it down to a 3 mana 1/4. Maybe something with Divine Shield instead. Yeah, 3 mana 1/1 Divine Shield is pretty interesting. Then it even survives Explosive Ruins. I actually like that design even more. I'll give the idea of this card like 5 stars for design, in that it's a feasible design and it seems like 3 mana 1/1 Divine Shield charge would be a really good place for it. Next up, we have a bunch of banana related cards. I'll just quickly give my power level rating on these and then talk about the idea of this as a whole. Young Monkey, 1 mana 1/2. Battlecry, add a banana to your hand. I think this is probably quite powerful, but it might be okay for Hunter to like finally get a decent 1 mana card. 5 stars in power level. Would depend on like whether or not mid-range Hunter would even see any play, but it would see play in that deck. Banana Tree, 2 mana 0/6 taunt at the end of the turn, add a banana to your hand. That card is ridiculous. It compares to Primal Fin Totem, except instead of the 1/1s into play, you're getting a 1/1 banana into your hand. That's arguably around the same power level. On top of the 0/3 stat line, you're getting 3 extra health and taunt. The taunt isn't necessarily good, but yeah, this should be toned down quite a bit, and I don't think it necessarily makes sense for a tree to have taunt, so it could just be a 2 mana 0/4 or a 2 mana 0/3, I'd say. Power level of this card is off the charts right now, it's like 6 stars. Wild Primate, 2 mana 3/2, Battlecry. If you're holding a banana, gain +1 attack and rush. So for 3 mana, it compares to the Saber. Requires you have a banana in your hand, which is an interesting synergy type thing. I could probably see it as like a strong card in that deck. 5 stars, I guess, for this one. Mukla's Blessing, give a minion +2/+2. If it's a beast, add a banana to your hand. It's a little bit tamer than Mark of Yasharaj. It's one of those cards that is introduced along with like other banana cards and then just isn't that strong, which is okay. It's cool. Probably give that one 2-star rating. Mystic Monkey, 3 mana 3/4, your bananas cost 0, and it's a beast. So is a 3 mana 3/4 beast good enough? Probably not. Is the fact that your bananas cost 0 good enough? That's like pretty specific, probably not really that good. So this card would probably be a 1-star. Avaricious Ape, 6 mana 5/5, costs 1 less for each 1-cost spell you've cast this game. So it's clearly meant to key off your bananas, but it also keys off of cards like Tracking and Arcane Shot. Given that you couldn't play this in Spell Hunter because it's a minion, probably a bit too weak. It's too specific to cast 1-cost spells, and these alone wouldn't be enough bananas. So it's probably like a 1-star quest card. And finally we have Ishmael, Primate Lord. Choose a special banana, transform all bananas into your hand into copies of it, 5 mana 4/6, and a beast. So you have the big banana, which gives your minions +2/+2. You have the rotten banana, which deals 3 damage to a minion. And then you have the deviate banana, which gives a minion -1/-2. So first of all, the -1/-2 effect is a little bit too weird. I don't think we've ever seen minus off of health, so that should probably just be nixed. But between big banana and rotten banana, like right now, I don't think there's quite enough banana synergy, even with all of these cards, that would make this card good enough. So like 1-star, and then we can just imagine that the deviate banana could instead be something like -3 attack, I guess. All in all, I do like the idea of giving Hunter a special type of card advantage. All classes, I'd say, should have like a way to get cards, and Hunter is one of the classes that least is able to. But I think Banana Advantage could be a really cool Hunter theme. So like 5 stars for the idea, and then a bunch of this stuff could be refined. Next up, Time Lord Chronos, a mage legendary, 10 mana, 2/2 battlecry, discover a turn. Set the battlefield back to how it was during the turn with Chronos on it. The health totals aren't reset, the fact that your Death Knight isn't reset, and your weapons in hand and your hero power aren't reset, but the board state is changed. Now, judging from the picture here, it seems to be reset after you've ended your turn. I'm judging that because there are some sleeping minions on the board here, according to these pictures. So with the sleeping minions on the board, given that you can just play minions and then generally your board state is going to be better than your opponent's, cards OP. Because it'll be either a turn that you've cleared or a turn that you've managed to get the board presence on your opponent. You can have your Dragon Caller Alana turn and then your opponent clears it, but then you can play your Time Lord Chronos and then you have your Dragon Caller Alana turn again. So the card itself is incredibly busted, and it's a 6-star card. It was probably meant for, you know, a board clear generally, but the fact that you're copying it after you've taken your turn is truly overpowering. If you tried to balance this by making it discover a turn at the beginning of your turn, that would be ridiculously weak, because generally your opponent will have played some stuff and like threatened you with it. So resetting to that turn isn't that useful. And you're not always guaranteed like turn 1 or turn 2 or turn 3 where there's nothing on the board. It's one of those cards that just tried to take a grandiose idea and then convert it into a legendary. Because when you're designing cards, you want to go all out, right? And for that reason, I'm going to give this card like just a 2-star. Maybe I'm being a little bit more savage, but it's unworkable, I guess. It's either like ridiculously overpowered or ridiculously underpowered. I suppose my contribution to this would be making it something like a 10 mana 5/5, and then you discover a turn which is at the beginning of your turn instead. That would probably make the card a bit more viable and a bit more interesting and not like all in. Next up from Joey the Murloc, we have Plague Doctor. 3 mana, 3/3 battlecry, remove poisonous from all minions on the board. Gain +3/+3 for each. So it's similar to Blood Knight. It would never see play in the current constructed meta because there's very few poisonous and you don't want a 3 mana, 3/3. So 1 star in terms of power level. In terms of design, it's like 3 stars. Something I could see Blizzard printing. Angriest Worgen. Warrior 5 mana, 3/3. Rush. After it attacks and kills a minion, gain charge and wind fury. So it's similar to the Hunter Cobra shot in that the Cobra shot deals 3 damage to a minion and then 3 damage to the face. Angriest Worgen kills a minion and then can go face for 3 or can kill another minion. But it's pretty specific to have a minion have less than 3 attack. Card itself right now seems quite weak, and sure you could play it and then buff it, but that seems really overly complicated. Card's like a 1-star in terms of power level right now. Design-wise, it's kind of cool. I like how it's mixing multiple keywords together. And give it like a 4-star on design. You could consider giving it more health or more attack or something like that, just to buff in stats until it's not underpowered. Raigarh Earth Fury. Shaman legendary, 5 mana, 5/5. Battle Cry, transform your overloaded mana crystals into 2/3 spirit wolves with taunt. Note that this is transform, so it's kind of like living mana in that your mana crystals are gone. Except there's no way to get them back this time because your overloaded mana crystals have become spirit wolves. So presumably the earliest you could play this is turn 6 after you've overloaded 1. And then you'd get a 5 mana 5/5 with a 2/3 for a total of 7, 8 in stats. That could be a powerful temporary thing. You can also play it late game. Maybe you're at 10 mana, you don't need the mana crystals. Anyways, it's got a very cool idea to it. It's made for some sort of more aggressive deck that overloads quickly and then like transforms the overload into this, kind of in a gambit fashion, because if your opponent manages to deal with it, then you're pretty far behind. And it's tough to evaluate. There are no Shamans out there, and I don't think this would create an archetype because it is just one legendary where you'd want to voluntarily overload. Probably wouldn't see any play. So 1 star in terms of power level. Design perspective, I think it's really interesting. I think deserves like a 5 star for design. I like the flavor of Shaman permanently transforming their overload mana crystals into Spirit Wolves. Probably as easy as just bumping it up to a 5 mana 5/6 and then call it a day. And finally, we have Cashback Reward, a rogue spell. So initially, it's a card that literally does nothing, but after you spend 10 mana, it becomes Counterfeit Coin, which just gains you 1 mana crystal this turn only. And then after you spend another 10 mana, it becomes Unnerved Innervate. One of the thought experiments that people have had is, what 2 classes would be really insane together? And way back when we had this discussion, like Rogue and Druid were a class, were 2 classes that would be insane together, back when Miracle Rogue was around. Well, I mean, it's still around, but because you could put in Innervate into Miracle Rogue, it would completely bust that deck. Initially it does nothing, but note that you can still play it after you've played Gadget and Auctioneer just a cycle still, which would mean that the card itself doesn't have that big a drawback. So the problem with the idea that you can just do turn 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you have the Counterfeit Coin is, does Miracle Rogue really consistently play turn 1, 2, 3, and 4? And are you gonna keep a 0 mana like do nothing card in your hand? Like that's also a big downside. So you're kind of sinking yourself by keeping a useless card. And at the same time, if you're not keeping a card like this, it's meant to be kept in the hand because you need to spend mana in order for it to do anything. So it's just like a highly variable card. I have no idea how strong this card would be, so I'm not going to give it a rating. And I think that the idea of it is actually really good. There's probably some mana point, given enough testing, that this card is great at. So given that we can test it and we can set the mana cost to whatever is fair, sure, I'll give this like a 4 star for design. If I were to guess the power level of this card, I'd say it's like, it's deceptively bad. And I know how insane Innervate and Rogue is. I actually even know how insane Counterfeit Coin is in Rogue. But I think it's deceptively bad. I'll rate it like 2 stars in terms of power level. But the card's really cool, and I think it could be tested, and then a fairer card could be made. And obviously Cashback Reward is like a playtester name. You'd probably name this Underground Trade or something. And then generally I will cover every single card in the top cards of the week for custom Hearthstone. But this particular card of it is ridiculous, and I'm just gonna say that it would never work because of language differences. So it is a interesting, crazy idea submitted by Eat Your Food, and it's meant to interact with all the cards that say it in it. Probably the big oversight here though is that in quite a few languages it does not work. And that's about all I'll say about that one. Alright, so that's my first custom Hearthstone card review. Let me know how you like the rating systems of giving a power level and then my opinion on how good the design is. And let me know if you want to see more of those.